Hi, I'm author E.D. Baker. One of the questions that I'm asked most frequently is, where do you get the ideas for your stories? Lots of places really, but mostly by asking myself, what if? When I wrote The Frog Princess, I asked, what if the princess kissed a frog and turned into a frog herself? Because I've never liked the weak princesses who wait around for a handsome prince to rescue them, I decided that my princess needed to be strong enough to take care of herself and caring enough to help others. Emma was just such a princess. The Wide Awake Princess came about pretty much the same way. This time I wondered what would happen if Sleeping Beauty had a younger sister who couldn't be affected by magic and who stayed awake when everyone else in the castle fell asleep. In a world full of magic, how would her lack of magic affect her life? I've always liked the fairies in Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream, so I thought about the play. When I wondered what would have happened if Titania and Bottom had had a child, I wanted the story to be contemporary. After all, time passes differently in the Fae and the human worlds, and Bottom would probably no longer be around by the time the baby was born. If the Fairy Queen didn't want to raise her half-human baby, who would? And what would that child do when she discovered that she was part fairy? The result was Wings, which later became Fairy Wings with the sequel titled Fairy Lies. Fairy Tale Matchmaker ended up becoming something very different from what I'd originally intended to write. First, I wondered what tooth fairies did with all those teeth they collected. Then I wondered who really benefited from all those collected teeth. If a tooth fairy really wanted to help people, why would she want to stay in a job that she thought was useless? I started to think about the kinds of jobs that she might want to take on. I came up with a real estate agent who would help fairy tale characters buy and sell their homes. Eventually I discarded that idea. It took me 4 more plot lines to come up with one I liked. However, I didn't discard everything from the first story. Corey helps Susie sell her house and her seashell store, located on the seashore, to Santa Claus, who needs a vacation home where he and Mrs. Claus and the elves can get away from the paparazzi. A question of magic came about in a very different way. My daughter, Kim, had been researching something else for me when she came upon the Wikipedia information about Baba Yaga. I thought the story was intriguing, and I wondered what would happen if the title and responsibility of Baba Yaga was passed down to nice young women who didn't hurt anyone, but who still had to answer everyone's first question with the truth. I enjoyed writing the book and trying to figure out what people would ask and how the newest Baba Yaga would feel about answering them. My magic animal rescue books evolved from a project I worked on with my fans. We started a newspaper called the Greater Greensword Gazette. Everyone wrote articles for the newspaper as different characters. My daughter, Kim, took on the role of Bob the Stableman. He was an older man who ran a stable where he took care of injured unicorns and other mythical creatures that needed his help. I got more letters about Bob than anyone else. When I thought about writing a story for younger readers, I decided that Bob was a wonderful starting point. The little girl Maggie goes to live with Bob and his wife Nora, where she learns how to care for all sorts of wonderful animals. My newest book, More Than a Princess, started with a character named Aislinn. I wanted to write about a princess who wasn't a traditional slender beauty. Instead, she would be someone who was very special, and had abilities beyond anything I've given any of my other princesses. Aislinn, who is half Padrasi and half fairy, has a lot more going for her than anyone in the human court. After all, she is more than a princess. So you see, my ideas do come from lots of places, but a good jumping off point would be to think about something and say to yourself, yes, but what if? Thank you for joining me today. Happy reading.